I've always seen September as a month of starting a new challenge. It's a new school year, it's a new season in sport, it's after the summer holidays when you've just been relaxing. It's that time you decide you want to do something new. Now I'm a filmmaker, I write screenplays and shoot commercials and dramas, and this time last year is when I started a science diploma. 3 days of the week for a year, I learned about biology, physics, chemistry, and some algebra as well. Now, I'm a naively optimistic person and I thought it would be super easy. It was really hard, but I came out of it with 11 distinctions and 4 merits, having also directed Royal Navy ads and won some screenplay contests on the side in my own career. So how did I do that? There are some difficult moments which you have to push through, and there are ways of making it easier to see that challenge out and actually succeed in whatever challenge that is. So here are 5 ways that you can not only survive a new challenge, but you can succeed and do really well. So the first thing that I learned along the way was about organisation. Organisation is best improved through evolution rather than revolution. When you are starting a new challenge, you want to be organised, but you don't want to cause yourself more obstacles because you're trying to be way more organised than you actually are. When it comes to my film work, I am incredibly efficient. I'm always punctual, always organised, I know what I'm doing. But when it comes to my own life, I am that guy who's always late. I am always looking for my keys, never really know where I'm meant to be. Now, when it came to education, I am more of my messy home life than I am my efficient work life. So I, like many of us, when I start something new, I think I will build the perfect system from the get-go and I will stick at that and it'll be great. And I know that everyone uses Notion. I see it on Ali Abdul's channel. I see it everywhere as a tool for organising life. And it's great, and I have used that a lot over the last year. But my plan going into this science course was to use it for everything. Now, the first lesson, fine, great. Had a nice page and it was all going well. But the problem is, when it's a completely new system, you reach stumbling blocks that you hadn't anticipated because you don't know the software, you don't know the organization. We always fall to our lowest standard. So as a result, there would be times when I needed to write a formula and I didn't know how to do that on Notion. And whilst it is easy to do, it takes time to learn how to do it. So I ended up just writing it on paper or writing it on a Word document or in an Excel spreadsheet. And now I had half of my lessons in Notion and half over here and, well, the rest also on my notepad. So trying to have a revolution didn't work. What you need to do is to just streamline what you already do. So when you fall down to that standard, it's more organized. So here's what I did. I bought 3 different notebooks of different color. So one for biology, one for physics, one for chemistry. And then I went to my computer and I just built some very simple folders. I'm way too lazy to actually go through and put subfolders of every individual lesson to title what that lesson was about. So it's all part of the learning process, but if you can just evolve how you organize yourself rather than trying to start a whole new system from scratch, you'll find that when you're pushed against the clock and you just want to get things written down or you just want to learn that next thing, you'll be grateful that you haven't set yourself up too complicated a system. Tip number 2, when it gets tedious, combine the work with your passions. When you're taking on a new challenge and you're learning a new skill, at some point you reach that plateau. It's a case of diminishing returns. At the start, you're learning loads, so it's exciting, you feel like you're taking lots on. But as you get more into it, it either becomes more complicated, so it's a little bit harder to stay motivated, or you find those advances you're making aren't quite as big, so it's not as exciting that way. So when you reach that point and the work starts to feel tedious, something I do is I combine it with something else that I'm interested in. So for an example, I've been learning sign language for about a year and a half, coming up to 2 years actually. And it's really exciting at the start. You're learning so many new words and it's this whole new world. But as you progress, it becomes harder to remember everything and there's more nuances, there's more intricacies you need to learn. Now, I don't really want to just sit here by myself practicing sign language, but I don't know anyone either who lives nearby to practice with. So to keep it interesting and to keep me learning, I combine it with my love of film. And I not only follow different filmmakers within the deaf community and see their films, but I'll watch documentaries in sign language. I will try and immerse myself through film rather than through conversation. When you're feeling uninspired, if you can combine it with something that you really enjoy that doesn't feel like work, then you're going to be more likely to keep going. Tip number 3, work for the understanding, not for the test. It blows my mind how many people will only learn the bare minimum. They think, well, if it's not something I'm going to be tested on, then why bother learning? Now, I'm a curious person anyway, so I'm always going to go a little bit deeper than a lot of people might. But in that first week of my science course, I was so far behind everyone else in the biology section, and it seemed like everyone had come from a biology background. On day 1, the teacher's asking people to name organelles, and I'm just Googling, what the hell is an organelle? And I had to put in the extra work to begin with to understand that. Watching the whole lesson on repeat, watching different videos on YouTube about what is an organelle, and grasping the concept rather than just the terminology. You can learn to play a piece on the piano, sure. But if you learn how to read notes, if you learn how to read music, how to build a chord progression, then it becomes a lot easier when you're learning a new piece because you understand the framework behind it. So basically, if you learn to navigate and read signposts, then you can get to any destination. If you only learn the route, then you can only get to one place. So learn the method, not the result. So at the start, I felt quite alone on this journey. I didn't know anyone else on the course. I didn't know anyone else doing an adult education course. And that meant that not only was it hard if I wanted advice or help from someone, but it also meant that I didn't have anyone to share those frustrations with or those fears with if I thought I was behind. Now, I'm a bit of an introverted person by nature, but I knew that I had to make an effort to go out and make friends, to make an ally. And when it did, it helped so much. Now on the science course, that wasn't too hard because I had a whole class full of people. But what about when you're doing something and you feel that you're doing it completely alone? So I've also been working on a course, developing a course for filmmakers. And I don't know anyone else who's building a course. And that meant that so many obstacles, it was just really frustrating. And at times I just wanted to give up. And I still feel like that occasionally. But I ended up meeting someone who is also building a course. And what that meant is suddenly I had someone to encourage and also feel responsible to, and bounce ideas off and bounce fears off and learn from each other. Now their course is completely different to mine, but we can share those frustrations, we can share those challenges. So if you're learning a new skill, let's say you're learning the piano, you don't have to know someone also learning the piano. But if you know someone who's learning a new instrument or even a new skill, and you start at the same point and you're working your way through, having an ally to talk about the hard parts and celebrate the wins is just so helpful. It really, really is. So tip number 4 is find an ally. A kind of part B of that tip is to not be afraid to ask for help. That might be from a coach, from a tutor, a teacher, a friend. There's no shame in needing help, wanting help, and in fact, there's so much to be gained by asking for help. I've never been afraid to put my hand up in class if I don't know something. It might take 2 minutes in class to go over that thing, but at least I then grasp it, as does everyone else. Everyone's had a chance to understand that thing a little bit better. Because there will always be people who are too afraid to ask, but really want to or need to. So even if you are worried about what people might think, or you're worried about slowing progress down for everyone else, don't. There's a great chance if you're in a group environment that someone else also wants and needs the answer to that problem. So never be afraid to ask for help. And the final thing is to share what you learn. I think one of the best ways to learn is through teaching. If you can explain something to someone else, then it's going to root that knowledge within you and give you confidence. I know that people feel like they're showing off if they flex, if they talk about everything they've learnt, but actually there's no reason to be embarrassed or feel ashamed when you've put in X amount of hours to get good at something. You might put in 200 hours to learn a song on the piano. Great, if there's a piano, go and play it. Equally, you may have spent 3 years understanding microbiology or how to speak Spanish. You should be proud of that. I was on a stag do recently and they started talking about cryptocurrency and a whole bunch of things that, to be honest, I just didn't really understand. But what I did know was about how quantum computers are a potential threat to digital banking. And I only know that because of the last year on my science course. So when this conversation happened on the stag do, suddenly I had a way in, but not only that, I knew something that a lot of other people didn't. And actually, that was really nice. And to actually be able to engage and share some knowledge about a completely different area, about how quantum computers have the potential in the future to break into any digital bank like that. I find that stuff fascinating. Now, I'm sure everyone doesn't, but in this situation when they're talking about their finances and cryptocurrency, I think it is interesting to bring that into the conversation. So never be afraid to share what you know, and the more you do, the more you'll realize not only what you do know and know really well, but you'll find out what you don't know so well and go off and improve on that. It benefits others, it benefits you, it's a benefit to everyone. So there are 5 ways that can really help you when you're starting a new challenge and seeing it through all the way to the end. The fact that you have started a new challenge says so much about you as a person, so much positive energy comes with that. You may be scared, you may be nervous, you may feel that you're not going to get very far with it. And maybe down the line you will stop, you will quit, and that's okay if you do. Everyone has different reasons. Some people end up not being able to afford it. Some people decide they don't even enjoy it and they don't see any long potential. But if you want to see it through and you can see it through, it is so rewarding. I look back now, a year ago I was a filmmaker who had a real passion about science but always felt nervous about being serious with that. Now a year later, I love and I embrace all these things I've learned and they've infused into my work as a freelance filmmaker. Some of the things that I learned on the science course I infused into a screenplay, and that screenplay has gone on to win a massive award in the UK, which I'm going to make another video about another time. But my point is, just by going for it, just by taking that chance, you are doing something to be proud of. And I fully advocate starting a new challenge. I'm not here to tell you what that challenge should be. Maybe it is education, maybe it's sports, maybe it's language. But if you have a yearning for something, if you've been wanting to learn something particular for a while, I fully back you to go and do it. Obviously, only you can decide if and when, or if you have the financial means or the time. But from my experience, what I loved was realizing I had the time. Before thinking 3 days a week, that is a big ask. It was a big ask, but it meant I started prioritizing myself over my work and my clients in a nice way. I always wanted to learn this. I enjoyed it, so I put the time aside to do that. So yeah, if you are starting a new challenge this September, or if it's not September when you're watching this, then whenever it is, back yourself, have some faith, and just take those 5 tips on board. And if you have any of your own, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. If you like this video, I'd love for you to like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you are specifically considering taking an adult education course, then I've left an article down below that I've written about my experience doing that, so feel free to check that out. Okay, well, on that note, I will see you soon.